you ever owned a car that keeps you up at night? One that needs so much work you don't even know where to begin, or one that has so many weird problems that you start dreaming of the diagnostic steps to figure them out, only to have those dreams turned into nightmares and you wake up in a pool of your own sweat with no answers whatsoever. Have you? Have you? Yeah, me neither. I'm just kidding. Of course, my CL65 AMG has been nothing short of a nightmare since day one. Now, I bought this car knowing it was leaking engine oil and hydraulic suspension oil, and after an insane ride home from Kansas where we almost died from freezing to death, I removed the engine. The oil issue was a $1 O-ring that required the heads to come off, so I went a little nuts while I was in there replacing everything and installing larger hybrid turbos, ported cylinder heads, and much, much more. And everything was looking great until I found a hole in a coolant jacket where they ported too far. So I had that welded up, reassembled, and installed the engine, and on first start, a fuel injector stuck open and it hydro-locked. These injectors were totally fine before, and I only needed them to drive to the dyno before the tune, but that's my luck with this car. I replaced the fuel injectors and we were good again. The engine was running great, but then the hydraulic suspension that just had a cut and dry leaking pump, which I replaced with the engine out, took me down a path I don't wish upon anyone. Very long story short, an accumulator ball exploded and sent rubber throughout the entire system, and I spent like 3 videos or about 2 months of my life figuring this out, cleaning lines, and replacing everything. Now, after that, we were good. I even did some preliminary runs on the dyno with the stock tune, and the car ran well. Craig from Modern Master zipped in a new tune file for all the mods, and then this happened. The car would almost immediately fall on its face as soon as boost kicked in, so I learned that when you turn these up, especially with bigger turbos, you can get spark blowout. So that's where I'm at, and I'm sure whatever I do will be super easy and the car won't give me any trouble at all. One last test before I burn this car to the ground. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're whipping out the old Alex Mercedes-Benz shirt for this one. See, this is the shirt that I used to wear at the dealer when I was a technician. And I think once I started putting this on is when this CL65 started to really come together. So this is my lucky shirt, and I haven't even washed it since the last time I worked on this. I think I'm never gonna wash it. All right, let's get into the CL65 engine yet again, try and fix it, and finally finish this car. And I can come up with a bunch of excuses as to why I haven't worked on this, but I'm not gonna do that, guys. The truth is, I've been scared of the car. I've had a lot of other projects, and every time I think about working on this one, I'm like, if I work on it and it's running again, something else might break, and I don't wanna deal with that. So it's just taken me a little bit of time to build up the courage to get back in here. But let's get right into this, clear the mess. I'm feeling good. I think the CL is going to be back better than ever, and realistically, all the hard stuff is already done. What's left is kind of fun gravy work. Okay, there we go. There she is. There's the beautiful M275. Wait a minute. Okay, that's not a good start. That fell off. Let's get right to wrenching. So I believe that the issue with this CL65 is a spark blowout issue. So we're gonna start off by re-gapping the spark plug. So typically if you increase the boost level, you wanna tighten up the gap on the spark plugs, otherwise the boost will literally blow it out, kind of like a candle. So right now I'm just removing these red rubber boots that go inside of the ignition coil and often get stuck on the spark plug. I've removed all of the red boots, and these are practically new from when I did all the engine work, so they don't really need to be replaced, but my new rebuilt coils that I'll show you guys in a moment have new red boots, so we're just gonna go with these, and I can't wait to show you this. Let's remove spark plug number 1 out of 24. Yep, this has 2 plugs per cylinder, 12 cylinders. So if my Chicago public school education serves me right, that's 24. Very expensive in parts alone to do this tune-up. Okay. I took my actual spark plug socket on one of our little road trip adventures and lost it, so dealing with a magnet here to get these plugs out. Here we go, let's check the gap. So here's our very expensive CL65 spark plug, and these are ruthenium plugs by NGK. They're a very good plug, but one issue, you can't gap these. They're very explicit on their website that you can't touch the gap. But in speaking with my friends at V12ICPack.com who made my coils, they said they've gapped like hundreds or maybe thousands of these without any issues. So we're gonna go ahead and replace all the spark plugs. If we take a look at the ruthenium spark plug, see this little extension right there? This guy doesn't have it. It's more of a traditional spark plug. And I wonder if there's an issue with that becoming fragile once you start gapping. Now, there's many ways to gap a spark plug. A lot of people will just take it and kind of beat it on the table or the ground until this closes up a little. Not the best way to do it, especially when there's options like this. This was, I think, maybe $25 or something like that on Amazon. I'll drop you a link down below. But this is a spark plug gapper, and it's much more gentle on the plug. And you just place it in like that, and then we're gonna gently screw this until it's tight. Okay, so now we're just holding the plug firm. You can definitely use one of these gappers you get at the spark plug store, but I really like using an actual feeler gauge set, and we're gonna go for 24 thousandths for the gap on this plug. It comes pre-gapped at 28 thousandths, so we're just tightening it up a little bit. And yeah, right now it's super loose in there, so what we'll do is we'll keep the feeler in there, and we'll tighten it just a little, and then let out. That's your true gap. Yep, there it is. So we can definitely feel a little bit of drag, but we've closed it up just a tad. If you want to double check, go to the original gap and see if that'll fit in there. Nope. Yeah, it won't fit in. So we've closed it up. This plug is gapped and 23 more to go. Okay, but hang on. Before I take these spark plugs to Gapplebee's, I got to show you guys this really cool battery slash alternator slash charger tester. It's amazing. It's called the Top Don BT300P. Very simple to use. Just gonna connect these right here. So you're gonna pick which kind of battery you have. Cold cranking amps, this is 910, and let's test. Cool, good charge, 78% health. It gives you all this information, and check this out. You can print it out. That is so neat. You can get these right on Amazon. I'm gonna leave a link down below and how you guys can save big money, but check this out. Wanna know if your starter is bad? Sure, no problem. Crank test, please start engine. And it's giving us a normal reading. Everything's good with that. And now we can do a charging test also. It wants us to increase the RPM to 2,500. We're gonna press enter, testing again. Charge normal. Look at that, this thing's good. Top Don has a battery tester for any budget. So with this one, you can print. It comes with a really nice case. It'll do 12 volt and 24 volts. So you can use this testing a boat, an RV, a car, truck, whatever you'd like. And then this one does all of that as well. You just don't get a case and it won't print. And then this little guy is a more basic tester, but it'll still do all three tests as well. So don't pay anyone 1 hour of labor to diagnose your car. You can buy one of these tools for a lot less than that, and you can use it over and over and over again. It's super easy. Click on the Amazon links down below. Let's get back to some V12 action. All right, got my iced coffee. What should we play here while I do this? You know what? I'm going to see Blink-182. Hey Google, shuffle songs by Blink-182.
All right, here's a Blink-182
fan or not, I can't bring you with
YouTube
for this
music.
part. I'll get copyright claims. Stop!
All the small things.
All right, 23 spark plugs are gapped, ready to go. I saved the last one to show you guys what I've learned. Fumbling around with this thing every time is kind of annoying, so I just removed the 2 feeler gauges that I needed. And the reason I needed 2, I realized this went much quicker when I just went with a 20 thousandths. So I put the 20 thousandths in there, tightened it up until that was in there nice and snug. That's it, you really can't go anymore. And that way, we would actually get about 24 thousandths. Yeah, it's perfect. There's a little bit of spring back here. So when you just use the 24 thousandths, it's still kind of loose. It's more like 26 thousandths or 27 thousandths, something like that. So I use that thinner feeler gauge, and then when it's springed back, it would actually be closer to 24 thousandths. All right, that's my 24th plug. Let's get all these old ones out. Here we go. It's 23 spark plugs to remove, and then 24 to install. It's a little time consuming, I'm not gonna lie, but we got tunes. We got tunes, people. I could go more Blink-182. Actually, by the time you guys see this video, I would have already gone. And I'm going, or I went with a couple people you may recognize from my videos. Hopefully we had a good time. All right, I'm gonna rock out to some Taking Back Sunday, and I know I'm kind of dating myself. I listen to a lot of like 90s, 2000. What is Blink-182 in a band like that? Is that emo? Is that punk? I don't know what kind of genre of music is that even called? Anyway, I'm into everything. We're probably gonna do a little Nas after that. Maybe a little Darius Rucker. I'm a big fan of Darius Rucker. Here I am taking a picture in front of his house in Charleston. I had to. Anyway, let's do some spark plugs. Shuffle songs by Taking Back Sunday.
I know exactly what goes on.
All right, one bank is out, and I loosened up all of the passenger side, so now we can just use a magnet and pluck them out and then install our new gapped plugs. These plugs do look a little dark, and that's most likely because I had to drive this car a bit on the stock tune with the larger fuel injectors, so it was running a little rich. And then a lot of short trips and idling because it's just kind of been sitting around here in the garage for the winter. But anyway, the engine was still running really well, and I think these would have cleaned up, but that's neither here nor there because we have these. Now, many modern spark plugs are coated. The threads are coated, so you don't need anti-seize. Some spark plugs you still need some anti-seize, so just double check with the manufacturer. They usually have it listed right on their site. You always want to start these by hand. You can zip them in with a gun on a very low setting after they've been started by hand, but don't risk cross-threading. Okay, and then after they become snug, you just need a little bit more. This style spark plug has a crush washer here, and that's what makes the seal. All right, this box is empty. That means all of our new spark plugs have been installed, and it's time for our rebuilt coil pack. So my issue here with this cutting out at wide open throttle because of more boost pressure and the more aggressive tune is likely a two-part issue. So the gap on the spark plugs that we just went over, blowing out the spark like a candle, and also weak coil packs. So these gigantic, super expensive coil packs, they do wear out. So if you have over 60 or 70,000 miles and you start getting a misfire code, it'll start maybe with a PO300, then 302, then 304, and it'll specify what cylinder. You could have a portion of the coil pack that's faulty, and these are not sold individually. You just get one gigantic pack per bank. But you have options outside of going to the dealer and spending, I think, about $1,400 per coil. It's insane. Instead, you can send your coils into v12cipack.com, and you're gonna get these for around half of what the dealer charges, and they're rebuilt in-house in the United States to be better than ever. So basically what happens is when these fail, you can either get a misfire, and that's because they've worn out just over the years, heat, high resistance internally, or in my case, it ran fine under normal conditions, but it just didn't have the oomph to power up those spark plugs at wide open throttle. But what's cool is they just came out with this. It's called a boost box, and it replaces the old voltage transformer that sits right here on top of the engine and gets hot. And this guy's also gonna help us diagnose when coil packs go bad, which is pretty cool. So anyway, let's get the coils in, then we'll get the boost box in. All right, so I've sprayed a little bit of silicone spray on the new rubber boots. And then you just gotta shimmy these guys in and just be careful. They're kind of fragile. You definitely don't wanna drop one of these things or anything. I don't know which side is harder than the other. I gotta take this bolt out. There we go. Whew. And you don't have to take the intercoolers off. They have coolant in them, so you'd have to bleed the entire system if you did, and you can just kind of get them up out of the way. And it's just a little shimmy shake because you're trying to line up 12 boots at the same time. Push them down evenly. Piece of cake. Let's plug this guy in. Click. And we don't want to forget our ground. There we go. Driver's side coil. Going back home. So these are my original coils. They're on a core exchange program, but these are mine because I wrote on them, so I know. Okay. Sweet. With the coil packs bolted in, we can go ahead and reinstall our intake tubes. So just leave the intercoolers loose for this part. And then they just slide right over the turbos. And then you install this little horseshoe clamp and tighten the bolt down. Tighten up all the intercooler clamps, and we are almost home free. Now here's something that's super awesome. We get to get rid of this stupid bracket that broke. All the rubber mounts break on these all the time. And we are deleting this. Bracket delete. Weight reduction. Get out. Anyone with a V12 probably knows what I'm talking about, but these bushings to mount that voltage transformer on this bracket, they always break. Now we'll have to relocate that ground. And we have a beautiful factory option right here. This is kind of neat. I was worried where we were going to put this boost pressure sensor. It normally mounts on a bracket that mounts to that big bracket, but with the hose connected, it sits here just perfectly, almost like they wanted us to mount it there. The boost box mounting is very easy. You just put it right in here. Fits in here beautifully, so that's good. Oh, and this is great. Look at this factory grommet right here. Open it up a little bit, and there is definitely the perfect amount of room for this additional wiring harness. Slide it on through, and then reinstall our factory seal. And then this is an old Rentec lowering module that doesn't work anymore. I could totally just disconnect this, but we're gonna leave it right there for nostalgia. Then we're just gonna run the harness here, plug it into the factory connector, like so, and we'll just run a zip tie right about here. Snip, turn, good. Almost there, we just have our air boxes to sneak in. And don't forget to plug in the 2 little sensors on each box, like that. Air box number 2 going in. The only downside to getting rid of that center bracket is that there are 2 mounting holes for the airbox, but those basically haven't been connected for probably many, many years. You still get one in the back, and then the covers go right on top, and it's super snug even without those. The aftermarket intakes don't have anything that hold the boxes onto the turbos. It's kind of crazy. Before the beauty covers, let's fire this up. Fire in the V12 hole. She's back. Ladies and gentlemen, my twin turbo V12 with bigger turbos, ported cylinder heads, different blowout valve, larger injectors. It's alive! Wow, and is it smooth? That's what the V12 is about. Smooth as glass. This thing hasn't been started in a long time either. Cool. Well, my gloves are ripped, so you know we're almost done doing mechanical work here. We have a dyno appointment to make. Did I do this wrong? I rebuilt this whole engine. Forget how to do the beauty cover. It's carbon fiber first. There we go. Now we can go with this. And yes, I'm missing the little Mercedes star. It's okay. This car does have aftermarket mufflers, but it's just very, very quiet. It's decent when you give it some throttle though. Listen to this. By decent, I just don't think it's that loud, but honestly, I have so many loud cars that it's kind of nice having an ultra high performance car like this that's kind of quiet. You guys want to see the worst cup holder probably ever? Mercedes, I don't know what they were thinking back in the day. These things are ridiculous. Like it's honestly more dangerous than just doing one of these. But I'm not gonna do that, so we'll just close this up just in case it falls. I've let the CL idle for about a half hour. The gas is pretty old, so I can't go wide open throttle yet. I have to burn out this gas. Luckily it's a V12, so that'll be in like an hour. What do you guys think of these Rivians? You like them? I know they don't tow much. I mean, they tow a lot, but not for very long, but 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. It is the nicest day ever. 75 and sunny in Chicago. I'm back in the CL. It's running great. I can't go wide open throttle right now because I have year-old gas in here. Check this out, guys. Distronic cruise control. This is one of the first adaptive cruise control system on any car. 2005. So it's slowing down for the guy ahead of me. Look, I can set the cruise to 80. It won't go 80 unless we switch lanes. And now it's speeding up on its own. I know this isn't a big deal now, but this was 18 years ago. All right, well, I'm pulling over. I gave it like a half throttle. It kicked down. Check engine light, and it's running really bad. Let's just shut this off. Okay, yep. Now it's running great. Check engine light's still gonna be on. And I got into a little boost, but it was like half throttle. It could just be the really old gas. I think it's over a year at this point. It smells old, so. Okay, don't go past a quarter throttle. Definitely don't need it with this thing. All right, I've driven about 10 miles to let this gas kind of cycle through. And let's see what happens. Basically, I'm in first gear right now. And once I get into any boost, like half throttle, what it was doing is just completely cutting out. Well, it didn't do it that time. That was nice. Let's do a little second gear. Nothing yet. Okay. There it is. Yep. Flashing check engine light. That's going to be misfire codes on a bunch of cylinders. Like 7 or 8 of the 12 cylinders will have misfires now. Great. Yeah, the engine is shaking a little bit. It's definitely missing. Yep, lots of cylinder misfires all over the place. All I have to do to temporarily fix this is shut the car off, fire it up again, and it runs great. Just can't really get into boost. And we need to get into boost. It's twin turbo V12. I want to try a little experiment. So the engine's pretty cold right now. And every other time that I beat on this car, like you're supposed to do, I let the engine warm up. But for now, I just want to see what happens if we beat on it cold. Is this temperature related? It might be. Let's see what we got. Whoa! Okay, that ripped. That ripped right off the bat. I let it warm up a little bit. There was a car in the way, a semi truck actually. So we're gonna check temperatures right now and see where we're at. But that pulled right off the bat like crazy. It hasn't done that yet ever since we've had this issue. I have the engine off right now, but intake air temperature should be under 158. And I think this is happening as soon as it hits 150 degrees. I think it's just totally shutting the car down and going into a limp mode. That is very, very hot, especially considering we've only been running the engine for a few minutes. That's really bad. This is a split cooling system from the factory, which means it doesn't share the coolant for the intercooler system with the engine's coolant system. So kind of like my E55, that does not have split cooling from the factory, and that can make for higher intake air temps. This has that already. And the intercoolers being up top and fairly large, this should be a very robust system. This is no good. Okay, check this out, guys. I waited for it to cool down to about 130 something, and I'm gonna hit it, and we'll see if it shuts down right at 158. Oh, it's ripping. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. Oh, and it's bad. So yeah, right now it's misfiring. It totally shut down. I have to pull over and reset this, and I'll look back at the log, but what are we at? Yeah, so it's like right around 147, probably 158, something like that. There's a bit of a delay with the feedback from the sensor, but it is shutting down immediately after it sees an intake air temperature that it doesn't like. This is a good thing, guys. Now we can actually duplicate this concern consistently. I'm gonna let it cool down one more time. We'll try it again, but we have to go after intake air temperature. We're gonna hit this right at 150 and see if it cuts out right away. Yeah, so the sooner we hit it, when it's closer to that 150-ish range, it just immediately cuts out. That is definitely what's going on. That is way too high. And what I think is happening, because it's misfiring random cylinders, I don't know for sure, but back in the day with the Cadillac Northstar engine, they had an issue with overheating, and the factory computer, if it saw that the engine was overheating, it would shut the fuel to certain cylinders, so the cylinders would draw in air and help cool the engine down so you could kind of limp home. And I think that's exactly what this car is doing. I think it's shutting down these injectors because it thinks the intake air temperature is so high. When you have that high of intake air temp, you could literally melt a piston. So it seems like it's going into a massive safety feature mode. And I'm just pulling into this random gas station so I can shut it off because I don't like it misfiring like that. But as soon as we start it back up, the intake air temperatures kind of settle down. Let's see where they're at now. Yeah, like 143, and then they'll come down quite a bit in between hits. Okay, it's going up. There we go. Yeah, 140, and we can get it down, but it doesn't last long. And I'd imagine on a really hot summer day, it would just immediately fall on its face when you hit it if they start off around there. So let's go back to the shop and figure this out. We're getting somewhere. This V12 will live with all of its power and glory in this video. I don't know why I say these types of things, but luckily there's a ton of wood in this car, so I don't jinx myself. I can knock on it. It's real wood. There we go. You're gonna be fine. Don't get too excited, Alex. This thing has disappointed me many, many times. Now at this point, I'm thinking this is one of two things. This could be clogged catalytic converters. That is a possibility. That'll increase temperatures all over the place and make a car fall flat on its face. So that's possible. And I'm gonna show you guys, no matter what, if we fix this first, a really cool back pressure tester so you could diagnose if you have bad cats. We'll get to that. But while the exhaust is blazing hot, we're gonna tackle the intercooler system. And let me show you what I mean by the split cooling. So this is the coolant reservoir for the engine, and that is where you fill up the coolant that runs through these intercoolers. You can see the pipes there, and they have bleeders and whatnot. And then there's a large heat exchanger in the front and a pump down there, and the pump could be our issue. So let's take a look. Oh, and I just want to mention that I bled out the entire intercooler system, and everything was working great when I did the engine like 2 years ago. We even had it on OJ's dyno, and that whole part of the system was fine. But we could have just simply had a failure. It happens. Could be an old pump. This pump could be the entire issue. Let's take it down. That's just one bolt. And I'm curious to the part number that would tell us about how old this thing is. Yeah, there's a little sticker here. This thing is, it's crusty, but shiny underneath. Let's take this little cap off, and we'll slide the rubber sleeve up just a little. There we go. Now we can see that full sticker. Yeah, this is an old pump. It's from 2008. For Americans out there, they do this a little differently. This isn't from the future. It's not from 2025, it's from 2008. That's a 15-year-old pump. These things just really don't last that long. At the very least, this pump is probably really weak. Let's see if it kicks on at all though. All right, so I have the charge air circulation pump that we can switch on. So you hear the fans, oh, there we go. It's on. Yeah, I can definitely feel the pump kicking on, that's for sure, but that doesn't mean it's a good pump. And one way you can kind of tell is squeezing the tubes that come out of it, and you can feel the flow. This is gonna be impossible for me to kind of show you, but It just feels like a tube with water in it that's not flowing at all. You should literally be able to feel it through the hoses. I got nothing. I think this pump is just totally weak / almost dead. Cool. Now I haven't installed the VRP Whipple supercharger kit on my C63 AMG yet, and I'm almost positive this comes with a pump that is just like the one on the CL. Yep, this is it by all the hoses. And this should be an 010. Yeah. Oh yeah, 010 right there. And it's a little bit newer. Yeah, this is gonna be the exact same pump. Perfect. Awesome, this will fit. All right, so we're gonna borrow this from the C63 temporarily and see what happens. All right, let's not lose all of the coolant in the system. We'll block it off with our little clamps here. There we go. And we'll remove our 2 hose clamps. This is a really easy pump replacement. We're gonna lose a little. Hose clamp number 2. Numero due. Numero dos? What are some other ways to say number 2 in different languages? Comment down below. Number 2 in your language. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Got a little coolant in my mouth. It's sweet, it's tasty, it's drinkable if you want to die. Don't drink coolant, it's bad, but it doesn't taste that bad. That's what makes it so dangerous. They say don't drink the Kool-Aid. I say don't drink the coolant. All we need to do is switch over this sleeve right here. This just cuts down on vibration of this thing running. There we go. We'll dry it off a little bit, make it pretty, make it professional. Get all these crusties off. Going back in, new pump. Give us our power back, please. Have you guys ever had a car like the CL? Not like exactly like the CL, but a car that you've been working on for years and it just gives you problems? I mean, not that I'm working on this every day. I take many months off just to kind of mentally recuperate, but what do you guys have? What do you guys got? What do you drive that gives you problems like this? All right, that's good. Clamp 2, going on. Beautiful. Hose clamp, click, click. Release the fluid. Release the fluid again. That was uneventful. I was hoping for like a fluid releasing sound, like a whoosh. That's what fluid sounds like. Okay, now back together with our clamp, our 10 millimeter going in. Okay, and our plug at the back. And we're done. I'm just kidding, we're not done. We have to bleed this entire system. There's gonna be air in it now. It can be kind of a pain, but let me show you how to do it. Normally this requires like a $2,000 tool at Mercedes-Benz that I don't believe is available, but let me show you guys another way to do it. And it involves using organic low-fat milk, 1%. You gotta use the 1%. If you use the fat-free milk, it doesn't have enough lubrication for the pump and you can burn it out. I'm just kidding. I just ran out of containers, so I dug this out of the recycling bin and it's full of coolant. So anyway, these tools are fantastic. I just got this one from Harbor Freight. I used to use these a lot at the dealership, but they're really nice in creating a vacuum tight seal. So we really didn't lose all that much coolant and it was bled before. So we're now going to activate the pump. You know, we'll put a little bit more in there just in case it sucks it down. If you do not have a computer to activate the pump, you can just put power and ground. It's only a 2-wire connector there. There's our fan kicking on. So you can just activate it that way. We'll turn the pump on. And there we go. We got a couple bubbles initially. It's probably just a little bit of air we introduced. And right now the pump is running. Okay, now I've turned the pump off, and just one more step here because these can be a total nightmare to bleed out, especially if you're starting from scratch with a completely empty system. But from the factory, the tool screws on here and it pushes these Schrader valves in. We don't have that, but that's okay. We're gonna pull the Schrader valves out. This is the highest point in the system. You're gonna lose a little, that's okay. And then we're gonna run this right back into itself. And we'll do the same here with the other side. And then we're gonna take out the other Schrader valve on this intercooler. All right, got the hose there. All right, so we got both hoses right here, and we're gonna activate the pump again. We should get some flow out of here. Yeah, so if you hadn't bled the system yet, like I did a while ago when I did the engine, you would have air probably coming out. And oh, we might have some, look at that little reduced flow right there. It might be fighting through a bubble right now, and it might clear up here in a moment. Oh, there we go. See that? Now it's shooting out a lot quicker. So yeah, we're gonna let this run for probably about 5 minutes. Oh, there we go. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, right now it's just aerated. So there's definitely air in the system. Hey, look at that. Look at those bubbles. See ya. So I have a battery charger hooked up because it runs the engine fan and this pump. You don't want to kill your battery. But we're going to keep this action going for a little while until I feel that all the air is out of the system. Once you get your coolant out and it doesn't look frothy anymore, You can turn that off, stick that in your gallon of milk, and we'll back out of here so it turns off the fan. And then this is a little stopper for our tool. There we go. And then we'll pop our Schrader valve back in. You're gonna get a little that comes out, no big deal. And check this out, this is the coolest Schrader valve tool in the world. So it's very easy to strip out Schrader valves, and then sometimes you gotta replace entire lines. It can get really expensive. This is a torquing Schrader valve tool. I've had this for like over a decade. I have no idea where it's from or what brand. I'll find one and put a link down below, but this is the way to go. If you over tighten these, it can cause a big headache and be very expensive. Imagine this one is built into the intercooler. So if you strip it out, you're getting a whole new intercooler. Okay, with our stopper in, we can just pull this up and not lose any fluid. Put it back in our milk jug. And then this is a universal kit. So you get a few different adapters. You just get the one that fits your car. This is really common. And there we go. Totally filled, ready to rock. This is gonna be our first start, and you can see here, charge air temperature sensor is reading 91 degrees Fahrenheit, and it should be less than 95. This is at idle. It'll go down because we have airflow when you run the engine, and we're gonna keep an eye on this. Hopefully it stays within spec. And I think when you're at wide open throttle, it shouldn't go over 150. It really should never even come close to 150. That's way too high. Let's go for a ride. Woo! Oh, this feels good. Oh, and it didn't even kick out at all. Oh man, these are fast. That's what I remember. And this is still on the stock tune. So I've reverted back to the stock tune. We had zipped in our performance tune file, and just to eliminate anything, I put the stock one in for all of these tests. So that's what we're on right now. Let's do that again. All right, from a dig, here we go. Jeez. Yes. Oh man, these things are rocket ships, and they're so smooth and like graceful when they do it. It's hilarious. It's quiet and it just shifts smooth, and the whole car, the ride, it's a beautiful thing. My CL65, you're alive. Okay, so after all of that, we're at 111. That is awesome. I switched it back to the wide open throttle live data. You can see as soon as we get going, get some airflow over the sensor, it goes back down to normal. So it's summertime, like I'd say anything like 10, 20 degrees above ambient would be pretty normal. And yeah, it's going right down. Cool. We were never able to do that before. That's a good sign. All right, let's go wide open, see where we're at. Sweet. I've been driving for about 30 minutes and we are back up to 145 just sitting here. Oh man, that's what I was doing before. All right guys, it's many hours later and we have the same problem. So I got about 5 good blasts in, like good all the way through second gear into third gear. It felt great. Everything was looking okay. And then at idle, I got back to the shop and it got up to like 150 intake air, then 160, and it just will never, ever recover. But everything looks fine. I have spent the last few hours going over all of the hoses, making sure the flow is in the right direction, the pump is working properly. I believe I have it completely bled, and it just won't work. I'm on the phone with like 2 master certified Mercedes friends of mine that I used to work with, and they're kind of stumped as well. I've tried everything. Now there is the factory bleeding tool, but I've done this before without it. You shouldn't absolutely need that. They are a pain to bleed. But anyway, I cracked this line right here with the pump on, and I just wanted to make sure we had flow going through everywhere, and we do. So I lost a little fluid on there. I popped the Y off because I want to run a little experiment where we just feel the air blowing out of each intercooler to see if one is cooler than the other. Maybe we can pinpoint one side is not working. I don't know, but I got to do my quick bleed because I lost fluid. This is by far the most disappointing and frustrating car that I've ever owned and tried to fix. It just fights me tooth and nail. Every single issue with this car, it never ends. Like you can't just fix it and it's like, oh, okay, that's it. It makes sense. Like we had a bad coolant pump. Cool, put a new coolant pump in. We should be fine. Nope. We're not fine. All right, it's pretty aerated. That's normal. I had the line cracked. But man, this circuit seems complete. I mean, the pump is moving fluid. It's getting weak. It's probably hitting a little air there. Yep, and it gets strong. It gets through it. But yeah, typically when you have a completely dry system, you do want to put it into a vacuum and fill it like a normal radiator. But since I just swapped out the pump and we barely lost anything, that's why I didn't do it originally. But I don't know. Nothing seems to make any sense. This is really good flow. Okay, so here's my new setup. This is your normal coolant radiator bleeding tool. So we're gonna hook up shop air, and then I also have the Schrader's out. These hoses are at the very bottom of this gallon that is totally filled. I've never done it this way, so we'll see what happens. All right, let's pull it vacuum now. All right, so we're gonna get a little fluid. That's totally normal and fine. Now we have the pump on. Let's see if it'll hold. And it holds at 5 inches. And the face of the gauge is broken, yes I know, but it is going up now. I'm just gonna keep this going for a few minutes. According to Mercedes, you're supposed to hook up their tool and have it bleed for at least 5 minutes. We're definitely not doing it exactly the way they do it, but it's kind of a similar concept without a $2,000 tool. Right now we're using an empty gallon of chlorine and our organic milk. Seeing it here first. Okay, I've got everything back together except for the Y. Let's start this thing up. Okay, so right now we can feel air coming out of here from the turbochargers. Not a whole lot. And the engine is just naturally aspirated at this point. I'll give it a little throttle. Get some airflow. It's pretty cool right now, but we've been letting this thing sit around for a bit. I just want to see if there's any difference at all. So far, there's not. We'll keep this going. Maybe if it's an issue with one side of the circuit, I can pinpoint that, although like all the hoses are all connected. It's a very basic system with no thermostat. There's just a pump, a heat exchanger, and it flows coolant through there, and yeah, check for leaks. We vacuum bled, we've Alex bled. Intake air temp is 130 right now. With no intercooler action going into the engine. So far this feels pretty cool, but we're really not giving it any load or anything like that, just kind of free revving. Here's where we're at after running for about 10 minutes. 154 intake air, so that's really bad. This is the sensor. By the way, I pulled that out, I've checked it, it's all good. I replaced it when I did the engine. And check this out. These are the cores, the inside of the intercooler. 105, and the other side is the exact same, 105. And I'm kind of moving around this core. That's the same pretty much all the way around. And then with the air flowing, it feels good. Let's see, with some air flowing. The air coming out of here should be about 10 degrees above ambient, something like that. It's a really hot, muggy summer day, so I'm pretty happy with the air that's actually coming out of the intercoolers. I don't know. I'm at a loss. Can't even talk. What else could this be? Now, this is a new sensor. When I did the engine, I just broke a clip off, of course. But I want to see if we have this just sitting out here, what happens with the reading. Make sure this is working okay. So I'll plug it right back in. Here's our charge air temp. And it is definitely going down. Not going down as fast as I'd like with this very, very proper method of literally blowing on it. Let's see. There we go. Down to 125. It's still really hot in this area, so I'm literally like blowing hot air on it. So even though it looks like our pump is flowing a ton of fluid, I just want to double check the amperage draw. So this is an amp clamp, very useful tool. I use this a lot when I worked for Mercedes for checking for current draws, but you can use it for checking amperage draw on a component like a pump here. So what we're doing is we're putting the clamp over the ground, and you can see here, we're pulling about 3.7 amps. So we take it away, it goes away, and we put it back, and we have our 3.7 amps. That's probably spec. I'm gonna see what information I can find, but that seems about right for a little pump like this. We're gonna keep going with electrical tests right here. I wanna check the resistance of the intake air temperature sensor. I found some specs online, and it looks like that at 20 degrees Celsius, which is 68 degrees Fahrenheit, we would be at 5763, and then the top end of this spectrum, which I'm assuming would be 29 degrees Celsius, is 6370. Currently in the shop, we're gonna be right around 25 Celsius. So split this right in half. Let's just say 6,000 ohms is roughly what this should read. So all we're gonna do is set up our multimeter to ohms, and then this is just a 2-pin sensor. And let's see what we got. Okay, so we're in kilo ohms. So that's let's just say 3.5. So that's 3,500 ohms. That is way off. 3,000s would be way, way, way hotter. It's giving an ohm resistance reading for super hot, which is the reading we're getting in the computer. This could be a bad sensor. I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember if I replaced this. I replaced a lot of everything when I had the engine apart. I would have assumed I replaced this. There's a timestamp for 2020. I think I did the engine in like 2021. So I did replace this, but that is not a good reading. That is way, way off. Is this our smoking gun? My screen needs a little oil. And something's going on with my tire monitor system. But we are taking the CTS-V to the Mercedes-Benz dealership to get a new intake air temperature sensor. And I need new platelets or something, guys. I cut my hand like yesterday and I thought it was done bleeding, and now it's bleeding again. My platelets just aren't kicking in like they used to. I don't know what's up with that. Diagnose that too. Mercedes-Benz. We're definitely gonna do a pull with the CTS-V after we get this part, and we'll check and compare intake air temperature, because this is the same general system water to air. So I think this is probably a normal resting heartbeat kind of temperature for this car on a hot day. But when we make a pull, it'll go up and then it should come right back down to about this. That's not what the CL is doing. Can I just take the V12 engine out of that? That would fix a lot of my problems. Okay, I can't wait to test this new part. Open! Okay, so in the exact same environment, we're gonna check both these sensors against each other. 3.5 on the old. Are you going to disappoint me? New sensor and be around 3.5? Yes, you are. Yep. Great. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with the sensor. I asked my dealer friends for the exact specifications on the ohm readings, and it says not available from Mercedes. So that's nice, but yeah, whatever we found online was, I guess, not right, and this sensor is fine, but I needed to replace it anyway because I broke the tab, so that's not the issue. Let's do a little pull here. Woo! So I got up to 132 on sensor 2 and 89-ish there on sensor 1, and we'll see if this recovers. The Mercedes would never recover.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
I'm assuming the higher temperature reading is the intake air that's actually going into the engine. And then the other one is the intake air going into the blower. So a little bit of a different setup here, obviously. But either way, we'll see if it recovers. Okay, so I'm off the highway now, and we're at 105 and 109. So it just recovers almost immediately. So it got up to like 144, and now this is a good resting heartbeat about, it's hot out. Ambient is 82, but it's really humid. So yeah, that's how a properly functioning water to air intercooler system should work. And we do not have that, but we hopefully can figure it out. I don't know. I've been at this for a long time. Fingers crossed. The car always disappoints me. Maybe this time will be different. No, it's not different. It's already not different. I don't know. I'm tired. Okay, back to the drawing board here. I'm just gonna check this system for leaks, although I don't suspect that's the issue. We're just gonna pressure test this like a normal engine coolant system. So we have our pressure tester and we'll pump it up. Yeah, let's go about 13, 14. I think that's good. I'm going around right now making sure that none of our connections are leaking. Under pressure, nothing there. I checked the driver's side, nothing there. Nothing on the passenger side. Okay, all right. Just ruling it out, and it's holding rock solid, so that's good. Never been so disappointed to see like a good test result, but every test result that's normal kind of makes me upset because that means we're not figuring out the issue. So anyway, let's move on to another test. Next on this wonderful, wonderful car, we want to see if the catalytic converters are working. So normally I would use a back pressure testing gauge, and this screws right into the front O2 sensors, but that's the front O2 sensor. You have to drop the entire exhaust. There's no way to like get your hand in there. I mean, it's just, everything is just crammed, as you could imagine. So I'm gonna show you a method of checking your catalytic converters that may not be as accurate, but it's much easier. And you know what? I'm gonna still show you this back pressure tester on that. My LS Mercedes has just about the easiest front O2 access ever. So we're just gonna take this sensor out. Hey, looks pretty good. We're gonna unplug this sensor as well because this is a heated O2 and you don't want it to melt anything. They get really hot. And then we're gonna simply screw in our test fitting, and then we'll install the hose for the gauge. We have the clamp tightened up and we're ready to start the engine. So yeah, at idle, we should pretty much be at 0 PSI of back pressure, and being naturally aspirated, this should stay pretty low even when we drive it. This is kind of a dummy gauge, but if you rev it up a little bit, I mean, really, you shouldn't have any back pressure at idle in the exhaust at all. On turbo cars, you might have some. And we'll go over this a ton more in a future Buick Grand National video, but on a turbo car, ideally, you want a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you're running 20 PSI of boost in the intake manifold, you shouldn't have any more than 20 PSI of back pressure in the exhaust. The lower, the better. But typically on a normal car, you'll feel bad catalytic converters. Sometimes you can't even get out of your own way. You can't go over 20, 30 miles an hour. You floor it all the way, and it just kind of bogs down. I don't think we have that with the CL, because if the intake air temps are in check, we can rip it and it feels really good. So I don't believe the cats are bad, but let's go rip it and laser them. We're gonna see the temperature and see what we can figure out there. Who knows, maybe they are slightly clogged. We're on the driver's side catalytic converter, and the front of the cat should be cooler than the back of the cat. So let's see what we got. The pipe leading in is 300, yeah, 308. And if this is working properly and doing its thing, this should be much hotter. Yeah, okay. So that looks good to me. Okay, passenger side, yeah, 290. And after the cat, we got 512, okay. The exhaust doesn't smell. Usually when cats go bad, it smells just like rotten eggs. We don't have that going on, but at this point, we gotta check everything. Engine fans are going crazy. They are on high, so they're sucking right through the heat exchanger. This one right there. This side of the heat exchanger is 128. This side should be cooler. Yeah, we have a 10-degree difference across the heat exchanger. I've seen better, I've seen worse, so I don't think that's it. One last test before I burn this car to the ground. We have a wideband O2 sensor with our little exhaust tailpipe clamp. And on some cars, we don't have a pass through the trunk. You just tape it to the side of the car like this. This is just a wideband setup that you can take around with you. So it's just spliced into a cigarette lighter adapter, so we can take it from car to car. So right at idle, it's running great. Stoichiometric. I drove around to get intake air to 130. Let's see what kind of hit we can get. That's wide open. All right, that's all we got. All right, well, we're on the stock tune with slightly larger injectors, so I was running low 10s. Normally, I'd want to see like 11.5, but again, it's not. We're just on the stock tune just to be as safe as possible. So if anything, that's rich, which definitely would not increase the exhaust gas temperatures, which then could in turn make the intake air temperatures rise. But yeah, I didn't suspect that to be the issue because it never recovers. So even just sitting here idling, the whole system with the fan on should be cooling off, and it's just not doing its thing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here I stand in front of my CL65 AMG as a defeated man. And if you guys have been around for a while and you saw my crazy series on fixing everything on this car from a couple of years ago, you know that this happens sometimes with this car. It just throws a bunch of wrenches at you and you get stuck on problems, and they're really hard to diagnose. That's exactly where I'm at right now. I really don't know what's wrong with this car at the moment. Next video, I am going to have to drop the exhaust. We're gonna have to get into back pressure testing to see if it's a turbo issue or maybe the cats are clogged. But I am glad that we swapped out the spark plugs and closed the gap, although I don't think that was the issue right now. I think it would have been an issue once we put the tune in this thing and upped the boost and the timing and all that kind of good stuff. So we needed to do that anyway. We have rebuilt coils in this, and those were really old coils. We have a brand new pump. That one was from 2008. I do think it was weak because we were able to get way longer pulls. I mean, we had a few of them in there that were like 2 to 3 gears long, which is crazy. So I do think that helped, but I'm a little stumped. I think the system is bled out. Maybe in the next video, we'll try the actual Mercedes tool. I'll have to go borrow one. I don't know. But in the next one, which may take a while to come out, this car will be fixed and it will be on the dyno. And we are gonna finally complete this series. That's what this video was supposed to be. My dyno is actually scheduled out for tomorrow. I've been on the calendar for a long time, but I'm gonna miss that now. So anyway, another disappointment. But hopefully you guys weren't disappointed in the overall video. And if you weren't, give this video a big thumbs up. Share the video with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't already. Comment down below what you think is wrong with the car. I have the best subscribers, the best commenters ever. And a lot of times you guys figure stuff out down there, which helps me greatly. So let me know what you think. And most importantly, have a way better day than I'm having right now. And I'll catch all of you in the next video. But in speaking with the guys, but in speaking with my friends at V12, and you can use one of these, and you can definitely use one of these gappers, but I just like, I realized this went much quicker. I realized this went, and it is time for our rebuilt, and it's time for our, anyone, focus. Well, my gloves are ripped, so, you know. 7 or 8 of this cylinder, 7 or 8 of this 12. Look at this, 2008. This is, oh, look at this, yeah. Now what's great is now I haven't installed my Whipple. I'm borrowing this from you. I'm borrowing this from you. Does that make sense? I think so. This is by far the most, maybe I can, I just want to double check that it hit. So even though it looks like our pump is flowing a ton of fluid, I just want to double that. Yeah, that's what a normal system. Yeah, that's how I. Which could in turn then make the engine, which then